Okay, guys, so welcome to our next topic, which is dehydration. Let's begin. So, guys, could I just reiterate the different our process, our steps with tissue processing? Okay, so andito na tayo sa dehydration. So, after decalcification is dehydration. And last, I just want you to note that we have minor steps in between our main tissue processing steps, okay? So we have washing out, yan. Wina-wash out natin ang excess fixatives. Wina-wash out rin naman natin ang excess decalcifying agents, and yon. And we also have this step, which is orientation. Orientation, guys, is in between impregnation and embedding, and also after staining. Yan, orientation. So we arrange your tissue in a sense na para ma-cut siyang maayos. We arrange it in the media for it para maayos, para madaling makat. I'll tell you all about it later. We have floating out, yan. So that the paraffin ribbon, after you cut it, the block will turn into a paraffin ribbon. Pag kinat mo siya, paraffin ribbon. I'll show you a photo of paraffin ribbon. Yan. Para class, it's not crumpled. Yung tissue natin, pag ilalagay natin sa slide, we float it out in a water bath or a floating out machine. Yan. May tubig. Para class, hindi mag-crumple, hindi mag-gusot-gusot yung tissue section para straight siya nilalagay sa tubig. At para dumikit yung tissue section, guys, sa slide is you need adhesives. Example, the most common is egg albumin. Yes, yung egg white. And we also have ringing. Yan, when we clean out the mounting media. So, andito na tayo sa dehydration, okay? So, Kai, what's the purpose of dehydration? So, sa katawan, class, when you are dehydrated, of course, that's bad news, okay? But in tissues, class, it's required to be dehydrated. It's part of the tissue processes or processing. Class, we have to remove the intracellular and extracellular water inside your tissue. Ma'am, bakit kailangan tanggalin? Yan. It needs to be removed because water is invisible to the subsequent steps. The next, the common solvents that we use in tissue processing class are organic solvents, are non-polar substances. So guys, water is invisible to them. Yan. Hindi compatible ang water sa tissue processes natin. Kaya kailangan nating tanggalin. However, we have to remove it slowly. Okay? Dahan-dahan lang. Okay? Aside from water, we remove fixatives. Okay? So the presence of water will impair the subsequent steps. It will impair the clearing. The tissue will not be cleared properly. It will impair the infiltration. Yan, hindi maayos ang pagpasok ng paraffin sa loob ng tissues. Yan. Class, the most affected step when dehydration is inadequate is the impregnation. Yan. So it will the entry of the paraffin will be unequal. Hindi papasok ng maayos sa mga butas. Infiltration is you fill the cavities of the tissue with paraffin usually. So since may tubig, hindi maayos ang pagpasok ng paraffin. Yan. It will affect impregnation and yung mga subsequent steps na rin. Yun. So, you have to replace the fixative, you have to remove the fixative, the water, and prepare it for impregnation. So, what are the solvents that we use for dehydration? Are your alcohols. Yan. So, your alcohols are both fixatives and dehydrating agent. However, class, it should be in increasing strengths or ascending concentration. Yan. From the lower concentration to a higher concentration. Yan. To prevent violent osmotic changes so that it will not shrink immediately. Yan. So, because kung matindi, mabilis na tinasyan mo yung concentration ng alcohol, it could be hard, brittle, shrunken, and difficult to cut. Yan, yung mga consequence. If you did not, if you shocked the tissue, yeah. So it involves slow substitution of water with an organic solvent, which are usually your alcohol. Yeah. So characteristics of an ideal dehydrating solution. So it should not cause shrinkage or distortion. Isn't it our goal is that the morphological structure will be seen, diba? The morphology should be clear. So what's inside the body should reflect the morphology of the cell of the tissue outside the body. So dapat ang dehydrating agent class, it won't affect the morphology of your tissues and cell. It does not evaporate quickly. Yan. So yung acetone natin, meron tayong mga dioxane, madali itong mag-evaporate itong mga to eh. Yan. It dehydrates fats. Yan. It draws out the water in your fats, does not harden the tissues, does not remove the stains. The stain should be soluble in this dehydrating agent. Compatible dapat yung mga stains. Non-toxic and non-flammable. So as we go on, we will encounter dehydrating agents which are toxic, which are flammable. Yan. So lahat ng, walang perfect na dehydrating agent. Yeah. So other considerations we have to take note about dehydrating agents is it should not dry out the tissues. So dehydrating is different from drying. Okay, so it should not dry out your tissues. And so sa fixatives, the minimum volume of fixatives should be more than 20 times. Yan, yun ay minimum na 20 times. Ano na yun, talagang cost-effective na yun. Ito class, you should use more than 10 times of the volume. Yan. Not 20 times, just at least 10 times the volume of the tissue so that it could fully penetrate your sample. Dehydration must be brief. Yan. It shouldn't be long. Yan. Example, acetone. Yan. Acetone is a rapid dehydrant and your tissue shouldn't be exposed to acetone for a very long time or else it will harden it or shrink it. Yan. Kaya dapat short time lang. Yan. Whatever miscible and anhydrous fluid may be used as long as it does not damage the proteins. Yan, the structure of your proteins. It should not coagulate your proteins and miscible to the fluids to be used subsequently. Yan. So, since alcohol yung gagamitin natin, alcohols are miscible to the clearing agents. Yan. So, walang problema. Yan. Other considerations with dehydration. So, agitation hastens your dehydration. A body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius hastens your dehydrations. And guys, we have to ensure that your water is completely removed. Yan. If not, the effect is the tissue looks macerated. It's soft, yan, soft, soggy yung tissue, hindi firm. Pag hindi na dehydrate ng maayos, pag may tubig pa siya, yan, should be firm, it should not be soggy, it's not soft. Yan. And guys, pag nilagay mo na sa clearing agent, which is commonly xylene, the xylene turns milky. So pag nakita mo ng milky bigla, so xylene is normally clear. So pag naging milky, your tissue still has water in it. And what else? What this is anhydrous copper sulfate. Yan. Anhydrous copper sulfate, guys, is a good test for water content because your anhydrous copper sulfate class without water is white. Upon contact with water, it turns blue. So therefore, class, kung may anhydrous copper sulfate ka, tapos from white, it turned to blue, ibig sabihin, your sample is still incompletely dehydrated. Yan, ibalik mo pa siya ethanol or to your dehydrating agent. Okay, so guys, this is your typical dehydration sequence. So if the Sample is 4 millimeters thick. Kindly get a ruler, guys, para magka-idea kayo pag sinabing millimeter. Di ba yung millimeter? Baka centimeter na sa isip nyo, ha? So, millimeter lang tayo, ha? So, maliit lang ang 4 millimeter. So, guys, after fixation, after decalcification, dito na siya. According to Gregorius, 15 minutes to 70% alcohol, 15 minutes sa 90% alcohol, 15 sa 100, 15 sa 100, 4 changes of 100% alcohol. Ma'am, why ganito? Parang sayang naman. Hindi na lang isa. Because we are trying to remove the fixative and the water. Yan. So here in 100%, in the fourth change of 100% ethanol, dapat malinis na to. Wala na ang ethanol and fixative. Okay? So these changes are important to ensure that your water is removed talaga completely. It's not in your alcohol. Okay? So kailangan ng change. Okay? So pag typical tissue, nagsisimula sa 70% ethanol. Pag more delicate tissue, example embryo, we begin at 30% ethanol. Yan. So this is an example of embryo. I'm not sure which embryo is this. This is not a human embryo, ha? So, ganito pala yun. So, these are delicate samples and we dehydrate it at 30%. So, guys, this is a tissue block. Ayan. So, kanina I told you about orientation. So, it's very important, guys, na yung pag-orient mo, yung pag-ayos mo dun sa tissue mo, nakalabas yung tissue, ha? Nakalabas. Plus, pag nasa loob, masyadong nasa loob, plus, mahirapan kang mag-trim, mahirapan kang mag-cut kasi ang layo-layo ng pinaglagyan mo. So, dapat, ayan, dapat andito. And look at the arrangement of the embryo. Diba? Ganyan niya. Ganyan yung arrangement. Kumbaga, kung ito yung embryo, ayan, alright na lang. So, kumbaga, kung ito yung embryo, ayan siya, ayan, ito yung embryo, yan, ganyan yung paglapat sa kanya, tapos nilagyan ng mold. So, para nung tumigas yung mold, yan, andito lang yung embryo, okay? So, ganito yung ano ng embryo, class, ganito yung paglapat. Class, hindi ganon, not lengthwise, or something like this, yan, not standing up. Because once you put your mold, ganito mo siya ikakat, pag-gilid, naka-side view yung embryo, mali, di ba? So, class, dapat, I hope that you're getting it, that it's very important that we orient the embryo ng maayos. So, yung embryo, dapat nakikita yung buong structure niya, hindi siya naka-side view na in-orient mo, hindi naka-ganon. So, pag kinat mo, ito yung makikita sa embryo, yung gilid niya. Okay, nagigets ba? So, it's very important that we orient it correctly. However, yun lang, balik tayo sa dehydration, that delicate samples should have 30%, should start in dehydrating alcohol at 30% concentration. Okay, next, guys, is example is this is from Bancroft, and this is your Histotech VIP. Wow, yan, Histotech VIP. Ano to? Fluid transfer or tissue transfer processor. Yan. So guys, ito naman yung schedule, processing schedule pag ito yung ginamit mo. Yan, it's automatic, it's already set. Yan. So for fixation, yan, it used neutralized buffered formalin, 1 hour plus hold time, depending if you haven't fixed the sample yet before placing it in the processor. So 1 hour, tapos and it will change, yan, may change, NBF 45 minutes. Then 45, medyo matagal dito sa tissue tech, 45 minutes sa 70%, 45 minutes sa 80%, 45 sa 95%, and 2 changes of 100% alcohol at 45 minutes. Yan. And clearant. Yan. Propar, hindi silane yung ginamit nila. 45 minutes at 3 changes. Yan. Para clearing removes your alcohol. And infiltration, guys, 4 na changes na paraffin at tag 30 minutes. Ooh, ganun. So it will all last for 14 hours. So it's overnight. So what the medtech does is before she or he goes home, yan, iset up niya na to. Yan. So pagdating niya ng umaga, ano na, embedding na. Yan. So hanggang infiltration to, guys. So sabi niya, wait lang, it has vacuum. Yan, to facilitate the penetration of the fluids. Yan, kindly search yan. No heat except wax baths. So, how big is the specimen? 3 mm to. Pero ang tagal, oh. 3 mm yung kanina, 4 mm. Thick. Okay, so we will tackle today 11 dehydrating agents, guys. 11 dehydrating agents. I got this in Gregorius, yan. And I tried searching other references kung what would they say about the topic. I-screenshot nyo na lang, guys, itong mga slides na to because yung iba paulit-ulit lang. Okay? So, I'll just emphasize a few things. Yan. So, ethanol is the best dehydrating agent. However, it's not perfect. Okay? It's the most common in routine dehydration. So, typical. So, kung ang meet lang typical routine fixative is your 10% NBF, your ethanol is your routine dehydrating agent. Yan. It penetrates easily, may used in delicate specimen like your eyes and embryo at 30%. Okay, it's non-toxic. It penetrates easily. Wow, it's good. However, guys, it's only slightly miscible to wax or resins. Yan. So that's why we have a clearing step. Yan. Because ethanol is not completely miscible to it. Yan. We replace ethanol with other solvent. Kaya may clearing step. Kasi it's not completely miscible to wax. Yan. So what else is the disadvantage? It could remove dyes like your methylene blue and thiazine dyes. Its disadvantage is it's not good for if you want to assess lipids because it could extract more lipids. It could draw out lipids, especially if you place it in a very long time, and it may cause shrinkage if you place it in ethanol for a very long time. So wag na lang, okay? And class ito, it could react with unreduced osmium tetroxide. Okay, so if you did not remove your osmium tetroxide properly, OSO4, and it could react with your ethanol. Next, methanol, dali lang. So, wood sa alcohol. Yan, nakakalason tong, yung ethanol ginagawang alak, class. Methanol talagang nakakalason to. It's toxic. It's good for blood, touch preparation, tissue film preparation. Yan, mga maninipis lang. Touch preparation, yung lang, in-stamp mo or in-imprint mo lang yung tissue sa slide. Butanol, yan. It's odorous, slow-acting, long periods of infiltration. Yan. Ito lang yung disadvantage niya. Kailangan matanggal siya ng maayos at kailangan infiltrate. Kung may time ka, kung mahaba hindi ka nagmamadali, what is recommended is butanol. Ayan. Recommended for tissues which do not require rapid processing because its dehydrating power is low. Medyo mabagal itong butanol. It's for plants and animal microtechniques or histology. So if yung mga biologists, yan, mas recommended sa kanila itong butanol because di sila nag-aala sa mga research ng plant animals. Di sila nag-aalala masyado sa time. Unlike pag sa hospital, diba? It's miscible with paraffin. Guys, when it's odorous, yan, pag nakita nyo yung odorous, you should use a fume hood. Odorous rin to, tertiary butanol. However, it's good as a dehydrating agent and clearing agent. So, clearing agent siya, class, kasi it could easily be dissolved in paraffin. Yan. So, yun yung maganda sa tertiary butanol. Yan, you could leave out the clearing process kasi dinehydrate niya na, kiniklear niya pa. However, it's more expensive than butanol. It's a universal solvent. Tertiary butanol, dioxane, yan, yung dalawang yan, universal solvent yan because it could act as a dehydrating and clearing agent. Yan. Sabi niya, primary infiltration must be done in half tertiary butanol and half paraffin. Wow. So talagang universal solvent siya. Haluan mo daw ng butanol pag mag-infiltrate ka na yung paraffin mo. May be used in staining series. Reagent tends to solidify at room temperature. Yun lang. So dapat 37 degrees Celsius. Isopropanol, yan, sabi niya excellent substitute for ethanol because this is cheaper than other alcohols. It's less expensive. It's good. Ito, microwave processing. Yan, nakita ko sa isang mga review notes. However, you could not. So other resins that you could use aside from paraffin, guys, is nitrocellulose. However, hindi po pwedeng gamitin ang nitrocellulose resin sa isopropanol. Okay? Yan. It does not work well with dyes. Less shrinkage and hardening. We have pentanol. Ito toxic to the eyes, to the skin. So, kailangan may fume hood rin to. It's miscible with 90% alcohol, toluene, and xylene with your clearing agents. It dissolves paraffin wax. However, it's not as good as a universal solvent as others. And last, this is toxic. So, kailangan is may fume hood rin. Okay, acetone. So, kung yung tertiary butanol at saka dioxane, dehydrating and clearing agent, si acetone, fixative and dehydrating agent. It's cheap, it's rapid. In fairness, it's also a good fixative, dehydrating agent. Nakita ko. Yan, it may cause less shrinkage. It's not reactive to osmium tetroxide unlike your ethanol. It's miscible to paraffin. It does not remove. So, ang dami niyang advantage kumpara sa ethanol, itong acetone. However, you should use more volume because it's highly volatile. Yeah. And flammable. And you have to be very careful because if you use it for a long time, it could turn their tissue brittle. Ito. So, itong dioxane, dehydrating and clearing agent rin yan, ha? It does not harm the tissue over a long period of time. So, class, yung acetone, yung ethanol, pag masyadong matagal, it could brittle out the tissue. Ito, hindi. Yan. Ito naman yung advantage niya talaga. Kahit matagal siya, walang problema. Faster dehydrant. However, it needs large volume, costs more expensive, and it's highly toxic. Yun lang. Highly toxic siya. Yan. High toxicity siya. And guys, you could not reuse it. Ito. Kasi once you reuse it and you use it, class, peroxides are formed. May nagpo-form siya ng mga peroxides. And these peroxides could be explosive. Yan. It distorts tissue-containing cavities like the lungs. Yan, yung mga butas-butas. Yan, it distorts when it has cavities. It rebonds poorly. Yan, I'll show you what a ribbon is. And class, if you use chromate fixatives, you should wash it thoroughly if you're going to use dioxane. So just to have an idea, so look at these tissue blocks. Yan, itong mga tissue blocks, guys, nilagay na siya sa microtome. Yan. So you have to trim it first so that it will fit into your microtome. And notice, class, the orientation of your tissue. Ang nasa harap na siya agad. Okay? Yung madali na lang siyang makat. So once you cut a microtome, usually you turn the knob. Tapos akit baba yan. Yan. I'll show you a video. Ito yung magkakaroon ng tissue ribbon. Yan. So, itong tissue ribbon na yan, ay, tingnan nyo naman, gusot-gusot. Parang may mga streaks. So, nilalagay yan sa flotation bath. Yan. Para mawala yung kusot-kusot. Yan. Para flat siya na para flat, hindi kusot-kusot. Hindi, walang fold-fold. Yan. So, flotation bath mo siya. Anyway, darating rin tayo dyan. Pero I just want to show you a tissue section. Yan. Apparently, one disadvantage of dioxane is it poorly cuts. It will not ribbon well. Yan. Sabi niya, ribbons poorly. Hindi maganda yung pagganyan niya. Pero mo ang ganda-ganda, oh. Yan ang magandang ribbon. Pero dioxane, it could not ribbon properly. There are time schedule. How do we use dioxane? Yan. So we have Graupner's method. Yan. In summary, 3 changes of dioxane. 1 hour, 1 hour, tapos 2 hours. Tapos 3 changes of paraffin. 15 minutes, 45 minutes, 2 hours. Mga 3 hours to. 3 hours, 4 hours. 4 hours in dioxane, 3 hours in paraffin wax. Yan, tatlong changes. Yun ang Graupner's method. Or baka gusto mo ng Weisberg. Ito yung paggamit ng dioxane ha. So, hindi ko alam kung anong mas common. Itong Weisberger's method. Tissue is wrapped in gauze and suspended in a bottle containing dioxane and a little anhydrous calcium oxide. Yan. So, magkasama. Parang mas tipid tong Weisberg's method, di ba? Matagal tong Graupner's. We also have Cellusol. Yan. It's rapid. And class, an advantage of Cellusol is like dioxane, guys. You could place it in Cellusol for a very long time and you could also store it. So dioxane, hindi siguro ganun katagal. Itong Cellusol, if you want to store it for a very long time, okay lang. So tissues may remain in it for months without injury. Okay. Tissues may be transferred from water or normal saline and stored for months without hardening or distortion. You can store it in this substance. Ang galing. It does not distort. No graded dilution. Yan, you don't dilute Cellusol. Yan, dioxane na rin naman, you don't dilute it. It's expensive. It rapidly absorbs water from the air. Requires a clearing agent. Plus, it contains ethylene glycol, ethylene yan, which can combust at 43 to 48 degrees Celsius. Yan, you have to be careful. It's combustible and it's toxic. It could affect reproductive, fetal, urinary, and blood system. Yan. Hindi na lang. So, triethyl phosphate. Ayan, it displaces water readily with slight distortion, does not harden. Okay. And finally, tetrahydrofuran. So, tetrahydrofuran, dioxane, class these are clearing agent and dehydrating agent. Yan. Also, your tertiary butanol. Pero ang mas common ito, dioxane and tetrahydrofuran. Yan. So, unlike dioxane class, it's easier to cut sections and ribbons. Low toxicity. Yan. It's odorous. So, use a fume hood. Aniline dyes are immiscible to tetrahydrofuran. And guys, if you are exposed this for more than 6 months, it could cause conjunctival irritation. Pwede kang magka-sore eyes. So finally, guys, so the dehydrating agent of choice for electron microscopy is ethanol with a transition fluid of propylene oxide. So propylene oxide class has these advantages according to Gregorius at ang substitute daw is acetonitrile. Yan. And class, we also have additives. Yan. So glycerol, it's a softening agent for hard tissues. So these are not the gasification agents. It just softens. Yan. Kung nahirapan kang masyadong matigas or excessive hardening, yan, lagyan mo ng softeners like phenol. Added 4% phenol is added to each 95% ethanol station para mapalambot. Yan, like tendons, nails, dense connective tissues, and keratin mass. And guys, that's it for today. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.